Welcome to History with Kids. Today we're continuing the story of the secret history of the Mongols with quotes once again from the Christopher Atwood translation. We should alert you, this episode includes discussion of violence and kidnapping. We're not trying to scare anyone, but this may not be for sensitive listeners. Last time, we talked about the early life of Temujin, the boy who will grow up to be Genghis Khan. Kids, what do you remember about Temujin?
Temujin was a very smart child. He had a lot of wits, but also a lot of courage. He was very brave. He met this really nice guy that was rich.
His dad was rich, the nice guy. Alright, today our story opens with Temujin, his mom, and his brothers and sister living in the wilderness. Now kids, do you remember Borte? Does that name mean anything to you?
No.
Borte was related to Temujin's mom, distantly. And remember, Temujin and Borte had been engaged to be married by Temujin's dad before Temujin's dad was poisoned. Do you remember that now?
Yes. No.
Well, it happened. So now, Temujin goes to Borte, and they get married. This also brings Borte's family closer to Temujin. That means they can help each other. So Temujin's power is beginning to grow. And today what we're going to see is the growth of Temujin into Genghis Khan and the completion of the story of the secret history of the Mongols. It all begins after the wedding with a fancy black fur coat that Borte's mom gives to Temujin for Temujin to give to Temujin's mom. In other words, it was from his wife's mom to give to his mom, and he's supposed to bring it back to her. Would you bring it back to your mom if someone gave you a fancy fur coat to give to your mom?
Yes.
Do you think Temujin is going to do that?
Yes.
Now remember, if you're Temujin, you really want to be the guy.
Then no.
What do you think Temujin might do with this fancy black fur coat?
Just take it. Yeah, and wear it. Take it and run.
Well, but think about what Temujin has done in other cases, with other people he's come across and other opportunities he's had to make friends.
Oh, he gives it to a friend?
Well, what if you found a chief who was not yet your ally, but maybe would become your ally if you gave them the coat?
Oh, yeah. Give the coat to them. Yeah.
That's what Temujin does. He finds a chief who long ago was allied with Temujin's dad, back when Temujin's dad was alive, and he gives that guy the coat. Here's what the book says that chief says. Here's a quote. "Due to the donation of the black fur coat, boldly I'll bring together your broken up kingdom. Moved by the memory of the sable coat, safely I'll secure your sundered kingdom." What do you think of that?
I think that's pretty good. What does that even mean?
That means because you gave me the super fancy nice coat, I will help you bring a kingdom together under your power.
Oh, so that's how he becomes Genghis Khan.
Well, that's how he becomes a king. That's not how he becomes the great Khan. And Noodle, were you going to add something?
And it's also good because now once it's getting easier for him to become a king, and once he becomes a king, it's going to be easier for him to become a great king.
Yeah, it's a step on the road. Temujin has gotten another ally. But the story is often 2 steps forward, 1 step backward for Temujin. There's going to be setbacks, and a big one happens now. It starts with an older lady who works for Temujin's mom. She says this, Mother, get up quick! The ground is shaking! You can hear pounding! Are the terrible people coming? Mother, get up quick! So what do you think that could be?
The building of the kingdom?
Remember, we're in an area where they don't do a lot of construction. People live with horses and travel around on horses.
Oh, people are attacking.
She's hearing horse hooves from a group of horses running, and the ground is beating like an enormous drum, essentially. That's what's happening. She realizes that they're going to be attacked, as Noodle said. So Temujin rides away, and Borte, his wife, hides in the wool wagon, but she's discovered and kidnapped by a group called the Mirkit. If you were Temujin, what would you do now?
I would try to run and become a king, or save my mom.
It's the wife. Borte's his wife.
Save your Borte.
Yes, and who would you ask for help in getting her back?
Either the chief or my friend.
And which chief?
The chief that you gave the coat to. Yeah.
Correct. That's what Temujin does. He goes to the chief that he had given that fancy coat to, and here's a quote of what the chief says, according to the book. "Moved by the memory of the sable coat, Massacred will the mass of Mirkit be. Madame Borte will be made safe for you. Due to the donation of the black fur coat, destruction will be done to all the Mirkit. So what do you think of this? Was Temujin right to give that guy the coat rather than giving it to his mom?
Yes.
And what else are you seeing about life up in Mongolia at that time?
People are kind, but also not kind.
That's true. We saw that last week too. So remember, Temujin's dad had been a local chief before he died. So Temujin also goes to the other chiefs who knew his father and gets an army together to attack this group, the Mirkit, which I'm probably mispronouncing. But you have to realize that this is a different sort of army than what the Romans used. First of all, it's all horsemen. Second of all, it's going to exist for a limited time to do a single thing, and then it might go back into being separate groups. Now, do you think those two facts I just shared are related? In other words, the fact that everyone's on horseback could connect to it being more fluid?
Yes. Yes.
Why?
Because horses are fast.
And if you don't have a lot of buildings that you live in year-round, and everyone has a horse, what can you do if you don't like a group that you're part of?
You could quickly go away.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go away. You can also try to steal their stuff, or they might steal your stuff. But the fact that everyone is on the move all the time in this area means it's harder to hold an army together, because these different groups can choose to go away at any time. Anyway, one of Temujin's allies says explicitly that what they are going to do with the Mirkit, in part, and here's a quote, is plunder his kingdom painfully.
What does that mean?
That means take his stuff. We're going to kill some of these people, and we're going to take their stuff. And that's the logic of fighting in many cases, logic, quote unquote, at this time, which is that different groups team up to attack each other and take their stuff. That's what's motivating them. That's why they care. Yes, partly they are being nice to Temujin, and partly they remember Temujin's dad, but also they're like, oh, this is a great opportunity to take some of the Mirkit stuff. Do you think that this is ethical? Is this a good system of society?
Yeah. Kind of. No. For the people who are poor and don't have a good life, not really.
It's true. It's a hard situation for them. That's a good point. Now, what do you think would happen if one group won some battles and just kept winning battles? Would other groups want to be on their team?
Yes.
And especially, does it change if China far away is distracted and is no longer doing a good job keeping the groups fighting each other?
Yes. Yes.
So could you have a situation where once a group really gets going, other groups want to join them to take other people's stuff, and it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger?
Yes.
Do you think that's sort of what's going to happen?
Yes.
Correct. All right, here's what happens next to Temujin and his allies. Here's a quote. As our soldiers dogged the heels of the fugitive Mirkit through the night, plundering and looting, and as Temujin called out, Borte, Borte, to the fugitive people rushing on, then they met. Madame Borte was there among the fugitives. She recognized Temujin's voice, got down from the wagon, and ran towards him. It was bright moonlight. When he saw Madame Borte, he recognized her, and they hugged each other in welcome. That's nice, right?
Yeah, that's nice.
So Temujin and his allies beat the Mirkit, and Temujin is a good and generous leader who shares a lot with his allies. If you're another group in this area, what does that mean you should do with Temujin?
You should probably join his team. Yeah, and also make him what's the word called? Promoted,
Promote him?
Yeah, they might promote him.
Wow, you really called that. You're both correct. Many groups come together around this time. Some of them negotiate with Temujin, saying that they want to work for him. They want to promote him into being their leader. But he has to give them some more stuff, or he has to listen to them whenever they want to say something. And so Temujin has to work out different deals with some of these groups. And then there's a ceremony, and they make Temujin a ruler, naming him Genghis Khan. So that's what I'll call him from here. Goodbye, Temujin. Hello, Genghis Khan. Now, remember Temujin's friend way back when who helped him get his horse when they were stolen by bandits? The horses? Temujin remembers his friends, and here's what Temujin, now I should call him Genghis Khan, says to that guy, and another early friend too. Here's a quote. When I had no friend but a shadow, it was you two who became my shadow and eased my soul. Let this remain in my soul. Going before the others, shall you not preside over all of them? What is he doing? What is Genghis Khan doing?
Oh, no. I'm not sure.
He's saying, I trust you. You were there for me early, and so you're going to get a lot of power now among these different groups who are joining me. So what does that say about how he's going to lead?
He's going to lead with people.
Yeah, in a very savvy way.
And people are going to help him.
Correct. And as his power grows and more groups join his team, he has to keep different groups working together in different kinds of situations that come up. So let me give you an example. There's a feast with some of Genghis Khan's people and some people from a different group called the Yorkin. I'm probably not saying that right, but we're going to say Yorkin. During the feast, there's an argument over whether one of the Yorkin people is trying to steal a horse. One of Genghis Khan's people gets slashed in the shoulder with a sword and starts bleeding in this argument. Genghis Khan sees it and rushes over and asks what happened. And the guy who works for Genghis Khan says, "The wound is hardly anything. I worry we might create a stink with those brothers on my behalf. I'm not in pain. I'm getting over it. When we have just been getting on nicely with these brothers, big brother, stop. Hold on for a few seconds." In other words, Genghis Khan's guy is saying, look, we don't want to accidentally have a war or something with these Yunkin people. Let's not make a big deal about this. So kids, if you were Genghis Khan, what would you do in this situation?
I'm not sure.
You know?
Don't know.
Would you listen to your guy saying this is not a big deal, no, don't make a big fight over this?
I would say no. It matters. Younger people, no, you can't join us. Because you made one of our people bleed.
But Genghis Khan wants them as allies. But it's just these couple Yunkin people were being not nice to Genghis Khan's people.
Then make those couple, only them leave.
Make them leave?
Yeah.
So here's what the book says happened next. Genghis Khan, without heeding the words of dissuasion, ripped some branches from the tree clean off and pulled the plungers out of the leather sacks that they started beating each other up. The Yunkin lost, but the next moment they said, let's be reconciled. Why do you think Genghis Khan did this?
I don't even know what it means.
So what it means is that Genghis Khan beat up the Yunkin people, so they were hurting, they were ouchied, but Genghis Khan did not kill them. He didn't make them bleed.
And what did he say?
And then he said, let's be reconciled, let's be friends again.
They hurt him and made someone bleed. He hurt them and made them not bleed, so they should be like, think that he didn't make them bleed, but they made him bleed.
That's right. So this way it will not start a war, but it will tell the Yunkin people, hey, you can't mess with us. After this, Genghis Khan and many of his allies defeat some of their neighbors and steal their stuff. But the Yunkin don't join Genghis Khan's army, even though they promised to. And what's worse, while Genghis Khan is away, the Yunkin steal some of his stuff. So what does Genghis Khan need to do now?
Take it back from them.
And what else?
Start the war?
Yes, correct. So Genghis Khan defeats the Yunkin, and he actually divides up the people of the Yunkin and divvies them up and puts them into Mongol households. For example, Genghis Khan's own mom adopts one of the Yunkin into her family, along with adopting people from some of the other groups that Genghis Khan has been defeating. In other words, he's turning these groups into Mongols, making them part of his group instead of being somewhat separate groups that might rebel from him. What do you think of that strategy?
Good idea. Good.
So here's another example of how Genghis Khan's power grew. During one battle, someone shot an arrow that killed Genghis Khan's horse. After the battle, when the surviving enemies surrendered, Genghis Khan asked, who shot that arrow? One of the enemies said this, here's a quote. I fired it from on top of the mountain. If I receive death from the Khan, I will stay behind fouling a piece of ground the size of a palm. If I should be favored in front of the Khan, I will charge for him, driving through the deep water, smashing through the smooth stone. Whatever place he says to get to, whatever he says to attack, there I will charge for him, breaking apart the blue boulder, beating to bits the black boulder.
Why did the enemy admit it?
Because the enemy said, look, I used to be your enemy. I was on a different team. My job was to try to be a good attacker. So I was a good attacker against you. Now, if you let me live and let me be an attacker on your team, I'll be a great attacker for you, not against you. And I'll bring my great attacking skills to help you. So what would you do in that situation?
I'll take him, but If he tries to do something bad, I'll constantly be near him in case he does something bad. I agree with Scoop.
Here's what the book says. Genghis Khan said, "Someone who has been an enemy hides his killing, his hostility in himself, and denies his words in fear. But as for this one, instead, he does not deny his killing and his hostility. Instead, he openly admits it. He is one fit to befriend. Here and now I name him Jebe, and shall make him a weapon. He will go by my side." What do you think of that?
That's pretty good honor. Yeah, and that's pretty much what we said.
Except it's saying I trust him more than I think what you guys said. Now maybe secretly Genghis Khan is actually not fully trusting Jebe, but he's making a big show about how he believes Jebe. Time goes by and Genghis Khan takes over more and more of the area. Here's how he organized his army. He had them count their numbers and numbered them there by thousands. There he appointed captains of each 1,000, captains of each 100, and captains of each 10. In other words, kids, this is not organized by tribe or by family group. It's organized by tens and hundreds and thousands. Why do you think this is?
What is?
Why do you think Genghis Khan organized his army that way?
Because then everyone can be watching everyone.
Nope.
Cause then maybe he'll put them in separate groups.
Nope. It goes back to something I said earlier. I said earlier that often these armies would come together for one battle or one attack, and then they would separate again. Because they were different groups, and they would only stay together as long as they all felt they were going to get something good out of it. So now Genghis Khan is organizing his army by thousands, hundreds, and tens, not by tribe or family group.
If 10 leaves, the 100 can sub for the 10. If the 100 leaves, the 1,000 can sub for the 10.
That's right. This is about institutionalizing. So instead of it all being about family ties, now he's organizing the army in a way where it's less dependent on each family. And remember, he's also turning these other tribes into Mongols, right? His own mom is adopting people from these other tribes. So now he's saying we're not going to be 100 different groups. We're all going to be Mongols now. We'll be organized into these groups of 10, 100, and 1,000. And that way we'll be more resilient institutionally. There'll be less risk of people splintering off. Now, there was still one big group of Mongols that Genghis Khan did not control. They're called something like the Naiman. I'm probably mispronouncing that. They were actually a larger group at this time than Genghis Khan's group. But if he could conquer them, he'd control all of Mongolia. One of Genghis Khan's generals makes this suggestion. When they get near the Naiman army, quote, "Every living soul will light 5 separate fires for every fighting man and panic them with the fires. The Naiman are said to be many. Their ruler is said to be a weakling who doesn't leave his gur." In other words, we're going to make them think there are more of us than there actually are. Because if each of us lights 5 fires, they'll think we outnumber them instead of the reality. But it doesn't work. The Naiman attack. If you were Genghis Khan, what quick message would you tell your soldiers right before the battle?
We've got a good setup. We are brave. We are strong. We've defeated a bunch of battles. We might have even defeated a couple that are bigger than us. So if we can do that, we can do this.
Here's what he actually says, which I think is even more badass. Genghis Khan says, "More men just means more losses for them. And fewer men just means fewer losses for us." In other words, the more men they have, the more men who will die on their side. The fewer men we have, the fewer men who will die on our side.
Oh yeah, because if everyone dies on both teams, that team will have more people who died than this team.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of logical if you don't think about it too much. If you think about it too much, it doesn't actually make sense, because the more men that we have, the fewer of us will die, because we'll be able to defend each other. But really, he's just basically saying, like, we're super good, don't worry about it. And he's right. And he fights personally at the front of the army. Even though they're a smaller army, they're a more effective army, and they win. And I think that the changes that Genghis Khan put into place around the thousands and the hundreds and the tens, and the way that he's been institutionalizing his army makes a difference here. So Genghis Khan wins, and now he controls Mongolia. There's one last story we'll tell of Genghis Khan, how he fought in northern China. Now Genghis Khan had several advantages I would say the first advantage Genghis Khan had was what his army were riding.
Horses?
Correct. They could move very quickly. This was an all-horse army. They could appear out of nowhere, and they were so much faster than the Jurchen's armies, which were not an all-horse army. So when you're not all-horse, you can only move as fast as your slowest thing, which might be a person walking. And I think the other advantage that he had at this point was that he had an army he could trust, which means he could send large groups of soldiers far away and know that they would remain on his team, which is not a small thing. For example, here's what happened in one city in northern China. Genghis Khan approached, and the city got on guard when they saw his army. So he rode away as far as it would take an army on foot 6 days to march. But is he marching?
No, he's riding on a horse.
Correct. So at night he rides back and he surprise attacked the Chinese city, and boom, he conquered it.
That's wow.
Yeah. Now, as you may remember, northern China at this time was ruled by the Jurchens. The Jurchen emperor is given this advice: neither the men nor the horses of the Mongols are adapted to the land in this area, and they are suffering pestilence, it is said. I mean, sickness. Let us issue gifts of gold, silver, fabrics, and goods in great amounts to the people in their army. Who knows if they will not be taken in by this council? Is that good advice?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, that was good advice. And for now, at least, Genghis Khan goes away. Another group in China says this: we, the Tongan folk, are afraid and said, we will become your right hand and devote our strength to you. While devoting our strength to you, we are a people with ponderous possessions and pounded walled cities. We will partner with you, but when faring on the fast campaigns, when fighting with the fierce rebellions, on the fast campaigns we cannot keep up. In the fierce rebellions we cannot fight. If Genghis Khan should deign to agree, we Tongan folk will send abundant camels raised in the shelter of the high feathered grass and give them to you as sovereign wealth. We will weave woolens and give them to you as fabrics. Do you guys know what that means?
No.
What I would say it means, basically, is that as Genghis Khan is conquering, he's coming across groups that are not the same as the Mongols. They don't live the same kind of life. They don't use horses. They use camels. They don't live on a big grassland. They live in a city. And so he's having to figure out what should he do as he encounters these groups, some of whom don't want to risk fighting him. I should also say, though, in some cases like this one, Genghis Khan says yes, and there are cities that he absorbs into his empire. But in other cases, Genghis Khan destroys whole cities and just burns them to the ground and turns it into fields for his horses to eat the grass. So it can be pretty rough. All this while, though, time has been passing, and Genghis Khan is growing old. A lady who works for him says this: nothing born into this life is eternal. When your body, like a towering tree, tumbles into ruin, to whom will you hand your kingdom? Like a hempen halter. When your body, like a firm foundation, falls into ruin, to whom will it fall, your kingdom, like a feathered flock? Your 4 champions, the princes you give birth to, which one of them will you name? What we have all been thinking about, the princes, the junior kinsmen, the teeming crude commoners, and even myself, this I have formed into this proposal. Let there be a decree to decide. What do you think? That means you're getting old. Who's going to be the next great Khan? You have 4 kids you haven't picked. We don't want civil war if you die suddenly. So you should pick which of your kids will succeed you. What do you think of that?
I think that's a bad idea because the other 3 kids might get angry.
But wouldn't that be the same issue if it happens after Genghis Khan is dead? And wouldn't it be even worse because Genghis Khan himself won't be there in case there needs to be any discipline imposed?
You're right. And I'm not sure.
Genghis Khan says that this idea from this lady is, quote, righter than right. So do you think he likes it?
Yes.
Now, Genghis Khan's 2 oldest sons don't get along, and they both say that the other one would be a bad ruler. In other words, son number 1 says, don't do son number 2. Son number 2 says, don't do son number 1. So what should Genghis Khan do?
Son number 3.
Yes, that's exactly what he does. He selects his 3rd son, Akadai, to be the next ruler when Genghis Khan dies. And time goes by, and Genghis Khan, of old age, gets sick and dies of a fever, and Akadai becomes the next great Khan. Rather than tell you all the steps of his life, here is his own final self-assessment from Akadai of Akadai's time and power. And this will be the last part of the secret history of the Mongols. I campaigned against the people of China. I set up post stations so that my envoys would swiftly ride between us post haste and also transport needs and necessities. In lands with no water, I had wells dug out and provided water and grass for the nation. Also, I left outriders and permanent garrison soldiers over the city folk in every direction. These 4 deeds I added since the time of my Khan father. Yet, although I was seated on a great throne by my Khan father and carried forward on my back the teeming kingdom, it was an error of mine to be defeated by grape wine. That means he drank too much alcohol. And he also talks about how he held grudges and he was greedy.
What's a grudge?
A grudge is when you still feel upset at someone over something they did a long time ago to you. Like maybe they did something mean to you a while ago, but you don't just let it go and move on. And Okudai also feels that he was greedy sometimes. Greedy means that he wanted too much money and too many things. Because Genghis Khan, his father, was very good at being generous, at giving other people nice things. And so Okudai, his son, is realizing that maybe he wasn't always as good as his dad was at being generous. So that's where the secret history of the Mongols ends, and so that's where our story will end. So kids, what did you learn about the Mongols?
I learned that Genghis Khan is the one that took them all together. I learned that you're very powerful with Genghis Khan.
And what is the lesson of all this?
You should always keep trying, and you should be resilient. Be resilient, keep trying.
And would you want to be a Mongol under Genghis Khan?
Yes.
Why yes, why no?
Yes, because he shares fairly and he often wins.
And why no?
It's going to be likely that I might get killed.
It was a challenging time back then. That's a good point. Well, I enjoyed learning about the secret history of the Mongols together with you. And I am glad that we don't have to live like Genghis Khan did when he was young in the wilderness. Have a good one, and until next time.